to the One Kind Word podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Wayne McClellan, and this is episode 3, A Safe Place for Women. We understand that you have a lot of choices, and I'm delighted that you have chosen us today. The One Kind Word podcast exists to help make your world a little bit better by providing encouraging and inspiring words. You are in the right place for more acceptance, respect, and connection. If you would like to cultivate a more peaceful mind and a more serene and meaningful life, you're in the right place. Today's show is an interview with Sue Kirby, who is the founder and executive director of Brightstar Community. Brightstar Community's mission is to help women survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, abuse, and addiction to find healing, hope, and freedom. They do this by providing safe and supportive housing, opportunities for economic independence, and a strong community of advocates and partners. They believe that in the end, love is the most powerful force for change in the world. Their goal is to continue to support their residents, covering their essential needs, providing mental health services, and educational classes to prepare them for the new road ahead. This year, they are also looking to renovate several rooms in their house, which would provide important updates and additional comfort for the residents. Our guest today, Sue Kirby, offers boundless passion to everyone she meets and to every project she takes on. She has worked for over 30 years as a legal assistant. In that time, she worked for an attorney general of the state of Texas, as well as a New York State senator. Building on her passion to help others, Sue has made Brightstar her full-time mission. Having been sober for over 25 years, Sue understands many of the challenges that the women face. Working selflessly, she wants to make a difference by helping change one woman's life at a time. Inspired by Becca Stevens at Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee, she has been working diligently to open Brightstar's first house in Rochester, Lisa's House, which was named after a childhood friend who passed away in September of 2016, Lisa Rainey Miles. Lisa was an important part of the mission as well as an incredible supporter and cheerleader for the Brightstar community. She continues to shine down on this mission. Lisa is very much a part of all that they do. Hello, listeners. I have a special guest for you today, and her name is Sue Kirby, and her organization reflects kindness in the world in a way that I rarely see. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. So, Sue, let's go back to the very beginning, maybe just a moment before you knew you were going to do this. What was happening?
Well, my husband and I had recently married and decided to put everything we owned into storage and venture off to South Padre Island, Texas, and really lived very minimally for 6 months, got away for the winter. And during that time, I really realized how important my recovery from my alcoholism had really given me a solid foundation in my life to survive, not only survive, but to thrive in my life in any conditions. And I was so grateful for having that foundation and that base and those tools that I had learned over the previous 10 years. And I really got a passion for recovery, especially for women, and wanted to share that passion and create a safe place where other women could recover their true selves.
So you're really coming out of recovery and wanting to kind of spread the wealth and the wisdom of recovery to a wider audience.
Yes. And that was really, it was just sitting over coffee. And I said to my husband, I really want to create a safe place where women can recover their true selves. And he said, you need to write that down. I think you just said your mission statement. And so I wrote it down and I put it on my computer and said, okay, God, I don't know what this looks like, but you do.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So that was the moment just before. So what were kind of the next steps in getting us where we are today?
The next steps were years of evolving that statement into creating a place where women coming out of the prison system, coming out of a treatment center, coming out of a halfway house, where they could live for 18 to 24 months rent-free and really have all the services at their disposal that they needed to help them really recover their authentic self. And in 2015, I met a woman in Nashville, Tennessee, that had an organization that had been up and running for, at the time, 20 years. And she was doing exactly what I had been talking about. However, the one piece that I did not have was her organization helped women survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, and addiction.
Wow. Wow.
And I
That's
had
inspiring.
no idea of the depth of this issue, not only in our country,
Right.
but right here in my own hometown in Rochester, New York.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And what was the name of that organization?
That organization is Thistle Farms in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow. Very inspiring. So you took this kind of lessons learned from that and expanded your audience to include victims of sex trafficking, which is a huge global problem right now.
Yes.
It is. So what happened next?
Well, when I met Becca Stevens, she had come to Hamilton College. She is the founder of Thistle Farms. When I met her, she let me know that they were just starting to hold workshops down in Nashville to teach other people how to start this program in their own communities. So I went for my first workshop in the fall of 2015, and I started to learn what the program looked like, how other people are doing this, and I really had a support not only from Nashville, but from other organizations all around the country that were doing the same thing I was doing here in Rochester. And I came home so motivated and said, okay, how do I start this thing? And I bought the books, Nonprofits for Dummies, and I started the process.
Well, Sue, I know that you're no dummy. So,
well, you know, I was not educated in nonprofit and how to start a nonprofit business. That was not something that I was familiar with at all. I had been a legal secretary all my life. So this was a completely different world for me.
Well, yeah, no doubt. No doubt about that. So as you started, things started coming together. Were there any obstacles to your success in making this happen?
You know, what's interesting is I think the biggest obstacle for me was my old belief system that kept getting in my way. My old beliefs about myself and the old voice of, who are you kidding? You think you're going to be able to do this thing? This is way too big for you.
Right. And
I battled with that for quite a long time. And I know that you know that journey that I had. And, you know, I thank you for all the support that you gave me through that journey of changing those old beliefs and changing those messages that I was giving myself, that I could do this. And anything I didn't know how to do, I could ask for help.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And you're so welcome. So, you overcame your internal obstacles, and how did it start? When did things start falling into place, and what did that look like?
It really started falling into place in 2017. Having a board of individuals that were as passionate about this as I was and wanted to help get this off the ground. Everyone had that same good heart that I was looking for, because this is all about creating that safe place for women and loving these women right where they're at and loving them through their journey. So I looked for people who I saw that same like-minded heart.
Yeah.
And we started looking at how do we start raising funds. We had our first fundraiser in the summer of 2017. And then that turned into having our first big fundraiser. Our first fundraiser was a backyard gathering of friends and family that had heard me talk about this for years and years. And my friend, who is a singer-songwriter down in Nashville, Sonia Lee, came to town and did a little concert for me and helped us raise some funds and get this thing started. And then in December, we had our first fundraiser event at Nazareth College. And we actually had the founder of Thistle Farms, Becca Stevens, and 2 survivor leaders come with her and help us to really launch this thing. And that's when it really took off. The community realized that it wasn't just some local girl who had an idea. It was a local girl who had an idea and had an evidence-based program to put into place in our area to do exactly what was happening down in Nashville and all around the country with an 82% success rate.
82%. I do not remember that number. That's a beautiful number. And it also sounds like you not only had community support, but you had the support of people like Becca Stevens, people like Sonia Lee, and other folks that were believing in you and your cause. Is that right?
Exactly. And I think that through all of this, it also helped me to believe in myself, to believe that I am doing this. This is happening. And really helped me to move forward and get excited about what's next. What can we do next?
Wow. Very exciting. Very exciting. So that's 2017. Between 2017 and 2021, what has happened?
What has happened? We have continued with our fundraising. We have worked on finding a home for our first house, which is called Lisa's House. We were able to take possession of that home in September of 2020. We have done some work on the home to make it safe and secure, and we welcomed our first residents just before Thanksgiving of 2020.
No way. That's exciting. Wow.
It is.
So it's really happening.
It's really happening. And the most exciting part is that it's happening with 2 women that I had met out on the streets when I was doing street outreach.
In Rochester?
And I had followed them and earned their trust. They heard me talking about this place and this program that we were starting. And during COVID, I learned that both of them had gotten themselves off the street and into an inpatient program, gotten themselves clean, but they were needing that extra support.
Right.
They were needing that extra leg up to help them really succeed in not only getting clean and sober, but rebuilding their lives and moving forward as an empowered woman.
So one of the ways I like to talk about this is that we need a kindness tribe around us of support. We can't do this alone. And that's true for just about every aspect of our lives, and especially folks that are coming out of addiction, so folks that are coming out of sex trade need that kind of support because the rest of the world is telling them a different story. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And one of the parts of our mission that's so important is re-educating the community on who these women are and how they ended up there. Because the belief really is, I hear from many people, well, that's not happening here. And those women out there, they chose that life. And that's just not true.
No.
And it's re-educating the public and re-educating the women on who they are and how they ended up where they ended up. And at the base of all of it is childhood trauma. And surrounding them with individuals and programs that are going to help them to identify the trauma and work through that trauma to get to the other side of that, and to know that that trauma does not have to dictate who they are any longer.
Doesn't have to define them anymore, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think about what you just said about how people assume that they chose that life. But if people take a perspective about their own lives, did you actually choose the life that you did? I think I can remember in my 30s, I met this guy who was a PhD, was a philosophy instructor at Empire College, and he was in his early 80s. And I said, so did you always know that you wanted to be a philosophy professor? And he laughed out loud. And he said, no, I just kind of fell into it. And I think even when our life gets out of control and gets into sex trade or prostitution or drugs, it's not because we went, oh yeah, I want to be a junkie and a prostitute, right?
Exactly.
It happens because of life circumstances and the environment that's around us, which is so important that we have that kindness tribe to help us change the direction.
Yeah, and even in my own life and in my own journey in recovery, before I found my way into recovery, which was purely God doing for me what I could not do for myself, I stood at that crossroads. And I said, I can go left and walk into my boss's office and tell her that the reason I was out the last 3 days was not because I had the flu. It's because I have a drinking problem and I need help. Or I can turn right and go back to my desk and pretend like everything's fine, like I've done for many, many years. And I took a left that day, and it changed the course of my life.
That was a very courageous left, Sue.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And it's hard for people to do that. No.
I didn't choose that left. No. God chose it for me.
Yeah.
It was like I got that God nudge of go left, Sue. Yeah. For once, go left.
Yeah. And fortunately, there was an organization there to catch you when you turned left.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I had that kindness of that boss that didn't say to me, well, you're fired.
Right.
She said, oh, I've been waiting for you. Would you like to go to a 12-step meeting with me?
Wow.
I've been sober for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that at the time.
Right. Of course, you couldn't have known that.
No idea.
So you're providing this new organization to catch women specifically when they're ready to make that left turn in their life, and they're courageous enough to do that. You don't want to leave them to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
And that's a really beautiful thing. Okay, so here's the big question of the day.
Okay.
Where are we going? Where do you see your beautiful organization in 5-10 years from now? Where are we taking this journey?
Where this journey is going is still following this model down in Nashville, Tennessee, that includes not just one home, but many homes. A community is what we're building to wrap our arms around these women and create a community of healing, and creating a social enterprise where the women can work and learn the skills to help them not only survive, but thrive once they graduate from our residential program. And they will be sisters for life. Once they graduate from the Brightstar residential program, they're not gone. They're always a part of us.
Wow. So you're going to build a community.
Yeah. Brightstar Community.
Brightstar Community. Wow, that's wonderful. So a couple things. Do you have any events coming up in the next couple of months that we should know about?
It's been very challenging for us with COVID. We did have a virtual event in November that went very well, especially considering it had to be virtual. Yeah. And right now we are looking at the coming year and assessing where do we go from here, where we can raise funds, because we are completely relying on fundraising events through private and corporate donations and foundation grants rather than any state or federal funding. Because I have seen over the years that many organizations end up having to close because they've lost funding. And so it's something that is extremely important to me, that my main goal is continuing to work on building our donor base, finding those grant opportunities. And so this year, it's looking at what will our fundraisers be. You know, I'd love to have something in the summer that can be outdoors so that we can be safe distanced. We did that a couple years ago. We had, I can't remember what we called it, but it was something like a party in the park. And it was, it was a lot of fun. We had musicians that came. Sonia Lee was up from Nashville again and reunited her old group, Calico, and they did some amazing songs for us. And we just had a cookout and it was lots of fun. I'd love to do something like that again. But then, of course, looking for our big fundraiser in November again, hopefully to be held at the Strathallan again. And not have to be virtual.
So if people would like to stay in touch with the pulse of Bright Star, where can we find you?
You can find us on Facebook at Brightstar Community, or you can also go to our website, which is brightstarcommunity.org. And through there, you can sign up for our newsletter. We have an opportunity for people to sign up to be a monthly donor where they can support us on a monthly basis and continue to help women going forward.
There's an opportunity for folks to make a monthly donation of any amount to support the left turn of these women, if you will.
I love that, yes.
So perhaps some of our listeners are out there are struggling, that are women that are struggling right now in their life. And they're wondering if there's any hope out in the world. If you could leave them with a message and a thought, what would that thought and message in closing be?
There is a way out. You don't have to do it alone. There are people who care. And there's a community that is built for you to rebuild your life.
Beautiful. If someone is ready for a left turn, I think reaching out to you is a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time today, Sue. Thanks for being part of the One Kind Word podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
That's all for today's show. Once again, I am grateful for you. If you would like to be a guest on our podcast, visit our website at onekindwordpodcast.com to schedule a conversation with me. Next time on the One Kind Word podcast, we will have conversations on kindness with listeners just like you, guests from North Carolina and upstate New York. Never doubt your value, my friend. You are one of a kind. And always remember, one kind word can change everything. See you next time.